February 1st, 2018. Roll call, Mr. Veeder.
Leyland.
Here.
Little.
Here.
Maxman.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
White.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have the agenda received as proposed or as amended?
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 2, other business. Motion to receive and place on file with the county auditor the compensation board's recommendation for Blackhawk County elected officials' salaries of a 4% across the board increase for fiscal year 2018-19.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just a clarification, this is not what the board is authorizing, this is what's been recommended by the compensation board.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Motion to approve interim assignment of Carol Laurie, Health Services Director, and following a 10% and allowing a 10% increase in salary pursuant to the non-bargaining classification and compensation policy effective February 22nd, 2018, to perform the duties of Country View Administration until a replacement has been selected, as recommended by Debbie Bunger, HR Coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Work session, presentation discussion by Marcus Millichap on marketing the Country View Care Facility.
Chuck, can you put my screen up, please?
Who's back there?
Chuck's back in the corner there.
Rory, can you put my screen up?
Chuck Rory.
Chuck Rory's back there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more.
Great, thank you.
Sorry to bring one for everybody, but I'm just gonna walk through what's on the screen.
You have this.
And first of all, thank you for letting me come in and talk. I had a call from Susan on Tuesday to come out, so I'm just coming out. I wanna talk 30,000 feet up about what a transaction with a nursing home looks like.
So the public could hear you, could you go to the microphone,
I'm sorry.
please?
Feel bad with everybody at my back.
Get used to it.
So my name's Ryan Fleming. I'm with the Institutional Property Advisors Division of Marcus and Millichap. We're a group of 17 folks. We're based in Chicago, and we cover the whole country. I focus on the Midwest, Iowa down to Texas. I grew up in Burlington. My family's still in Burlington, and I went to the University of Iowa. And I spent a lot of time in the state. I like it here. Can't wait to move out of Illinois, but that's a whole nother situation. So I thought we would just go through the book kind of briefly to give you, I know these are very complex transactions. They're very sensitive transactions in the community. I'm going to be very cognizant of that. And if you have any questions at any time, please stop me. I start talking and rambling, and just, as my wife says, just shut up and listen for a second. So I'm going to go to, page 4, page 5 is just some stuff you can read about us and my firm. Marcus & Millichap's a publicly traded firm. We have 2,200 advisors across the country. We're based in Carlsbad, California. Just a little snapshot on the company and all the things we do on those first couple pages. I would like to focus on page 7, the marketing strategy and experience. So I just want to kind of lay out how these transactions work, especially in a publicly owned asset such as Country View. And the way it starts is, as we got the call from Susan, normally we've closed 35 of these homes, county-owned homes, primarily in the Northeast. We've done a couple in Illinois, a couple in Iowa. There aren't that many county-owned facilities left in Iowa. So we have, excellent expertise. And, if you've seen one transaction, you've seen one transaction. They're all extremely different. You know, we have a valuation, we go to market, you know, we market the facility. But as you know, you guys all wear a lot of hats in your seats. There's a lot of obstacles, you know, there's a lot of things that come up in these transactions, whether it be with the buyers, whether it be with folks in the community. They're upset about getting, you know, selling the facility. And the most important thing is who the potential buyer would be and the legacy of that home. You know, I work in a relationship business. The last thing we want to do is, you know, bring a group to this, you know, give them a seat at the table to look at this deal, and it's just not the right group for the community. They're, you know, they slash and burn, they fire people, they bring their people in, and really have no base connection to the community, which is obviously very important. So the whole process is basically, you know, we like to say it's about 0 to 6 months from start to finish in a clean transaction. You know, in the beginning of it starts with, you know, receiving the financials, and we put the marketing package together, look at the financials, come back and present it to you. And what that does is, you know, you see what we think the asset is worth, where things are trading in the market. You know, the county home market is it's a different animal, I should say, a little bit than just a straight assisted living, independent living facility. But we get this marketing package together. We come back, present it to you, tell you about the processes, you know, the ups and downs. This number doesn't work for us. This is what we have to have. You know, we can all get into that conversation as we've analyzed, deconstructed the financials, put them back together, run a pro forma to, you know, most of the public homes are losing money. Most of them significant. I haven't looked at the financials, but I'm assuming it's, you know, if I'm here, it's not because you're making tons of money in the home and it's full and everything's hunky-dory. We understand that. So the biggest thing with our group is we've done 35 of these transactions. My senior partners have been doing this for 40 years. I've been in the capital markets for 20 years, specifically in seniors housing and long-term care transactions for about 6 years. And the reason I say that is we have the database of we've trained the market to our processes. You know, we've done over 4.6 billion of transactions. And so when we bring a county deal to market, people know how we run our process. We have to control the process. We don't need people showing up at the home. We don't need, you know, as I said, it's very sensitive, as you folks, I'm sure, understand that. But we put the marketing memorandum together. We start, you know, devising a plan, who our target buyer lists are. Whether, you know, we can present you guys with 100 groups, 20 groups that we think would be viable candidates. We could vet them that way. We could go to the mountaintops and scream to everybody, which is an option. Problem with that is sometimes things get out and it disrupts, you know, the folks that don't want to leave the home or don't want to get rid of the home, who's coming into the home. It's you know, it can be we want the buyers to come to the table that A, are well capitalized, B, we've vetted, they're good groups, they have track records, and that's the main part, is getting the good groups to the table on the outset, rather than bringing these people in. We don't really know them, we don't know where the financing's coming from. They give us a great price on the home, and guess what? They can't close. To go through that process and then try and take it back out to market, it does nobody any good, especially the owners of the home. So as we do that, we put the, you know, marketing memorandum together. You can look at some of the, you know, some of these bullet points here, but the main thing is we have a library of RFPs that we're more than happy to share with you to walk you through this process. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of legal counsel. You know, the PSAs for these things are usually 60 to 90 pages. The OTAs. PSA is a purchase sale agreement contract for the real estate. And then there's an operations company, which is the operations transfer agreement. That's another 67 pages. A couple accountants on both sides, a couple attorneys on both sides. It gets lengthy when you don't have direction going into it. So we have those RFPs. We have, you know, probably 100 sample PSAs. We have a list of references that I'll get into in a little bit. But as you go through this process, it's good to, hey, what does it look like? What do we have to do? You know, how do we want to set this up to bring the buyers? The RFP is basically just, this is what we want from the buyer. This is how we want this transaction to work. And these are the rules of the game, pretty much. So it's an important part of the transaction. So, any questions on that at this point?
You said it takes approximately 6 months.
0 to 6 months from start to finish. It's usually we like to market for 30 to 45 days, depending on the home, depending on the market. I do a lot of business in Iowa, and Waterloo is a good market. There will be some interest. It's a competitive market. There's some bigger homes here. But yeah, it's usually 6 months. It could be 4 months. It's usually when you lock the LOI, they usually have 30 days to. So you go to market, people start, hey, we have a bid deadline. We have to run this process, best execution for the county, obviously. And so bids are due June 1st, just hypothetically speaking. Then we have 30 days to engage one of those buyers. So we negotiate back and forth. Hey, we're going to pay X amount. We're going to have X days of due diligence, X days of, contract. Once we go under contract, then the due diligence kicks in. It usually takes about 45 days for that. And, if people get aggressive, usually with the county homes, we have to keep doing it. Usually, we want to get all the people to the table, and the good groups usually rise to the top in these negotiations of the LOI. Once we engage on the LOI, letter of intent, then it goes to the PSA and the OTA. That's usually what takes the most time. The lawyers do their red line, send it back. They do their red line, send it back. And it's usually, 7 to 10 days for them to do that. So depending on how messy it gets or the negotiations get, that's usually what gets drawn out. So depending on when we can get that LOI, how soon we want to work, I don't know what the timeline is. I don't know if we're under the gun. I sense that, you guys are looking to move fairly quick. So I think 6 months is a pretty good time. It could be a couple months. It could be a month or two, month and a half less. Could be a month and a half more from start to finish.
Thank you.
To what extent can we put, are we able to actually put stipulations over the future of the facility in any proposal that we would accept? And how do we enforce that after the deal is closed?
Can we put that on hold for a couple minutes and I'll get to that? It's, it'll be redundant if I go to that now, but I will address that in a couple of minutes. Anything else at this point? Page 8, just some of the clients we work with, some of our better clients. Page 9 is an interesting graph. These are the 35 county seals that we have closed. Page 10, just some articles. All of these articles are on the internet, whether it's our senior partners giving symposiums, articles on deals we've done. It's not best use of our time at this point. I'd like to now go to page 12. This is our track record as a team. We've been a team for about 12 years now. And you can see we've transacted in 44 states, 43 states. In Iowa, we've done over 2,400 units at 150 million gross, sale volume. That's what the numbers we've done in this state. I show you this because every state, every community, every county is different. They have different bylaws, different ways of operating. We've operated in most every county. And, there's obstacles, there's things that come up that we have navigated. And that's the reason I show you these graphs. You can take a look. Page 14 just is our track record, all the deals we've closed. And I don't want to spend time on that. 15 the same. Page 16 is just another, we are the leading brokerage group for 2 years running in the country. We buy number of transactions. If you look at the 2016 broker rankings, the box on the bottom left, that's the size of the transactions. We were number 2 there. Marcus & Millichap's known as a middle market shop. CBRE, Cushman & Wakefield, I'm sure you've heard some of those names do. The biggest deal we've done is $550 million. But our deals average, 10 to 20 million, down to 3 million. We love deals. We love what we do, and we take all deals if we think we can sell them, of course. Next, these are all the nonprofits on page 17 that we have done, going back to October of 2007. So you can just, city, states, number of beds, closing. In the first column, obviously, the name of the facility. And page 18 is where I'd like to have another conversation.
In those 35, it doesn't look like you mentioned any in Iowa, though. Have there been any in Iowa nursing homes? Or
There has been
Oakland.
Oakland
is the only one? Okay,
is the only one.
thank you.
I believe there's only 3 county-owned homes left in Iowa. You guys being 2? Yeah. So, back to page 18. This is going back to our processes. A lot of times in county homes, we like to set them up as an auction process, which is the minimum bid column. You see, 5 columns over, 6 columns over. So, the biggest part of a nursing home transaction is knowing what it's worth. You know, we're a group that we like to take our assets to market, conservative numbers. We don't want to come in here and say, yeah, I can sell your nursing home for $12 million and know it's only worth 7. It doesn't, buying a listing like that doesn't nobody any good. So our process is, the minimum bid is, so say we think a home, I'll just use $10 million as round numbers. We think a home is worth $10 million. What's the most efficient way to market that home? We can go minimum bid at $8 million, or we just go out at a list price. I think the market conditions right now warrant going out at a list price. We were in the middle of a correction in long-term care. The 3rd and 4th quarter last year. Well, I'll go into that in a minute. I'm sorry, I'm ADD, I bounce around. Back to this minimum bid process and a list price. You want to get as many people to the table in the initial innings of these transactions as you can. Knowing a home is worth, $7, $6, $7, $8 million, whatever it is. I think just looking at again, I just started looking at this 2 days ago, but I would say your home would fall into the $5 to $10 million bucket. Once we can look at the financials, we'll drill down on that. Let's say the home we think is $10 million. We will go out at a list price of $8 million to get people there. We want 7, 8, 10 groups to, okay, we're interested, we like this, we want to do a deeper dive. Then we go to the next stage, based on our timeline, which is in the RFP, they have to stay to that timeline, which is the rules of the rules of the road. But you get 5, 6, 7 groups. The best groups are always going to rise to the top. The best groups meaning the best groups for you guys, the legacy of the home. And what does the best group mean? 9 times out of 10, the best offer for a deal is not the highest price. It's what's in there. What are the terms? What are the earnest money? Hey, we'll put a $500,000 non-refundable right now. That's a pretty good buyer. We'll pay you $12 million, but we need, financing from here. We're going to get a bridge over here, and we're going to, it's just like, no, we don't have any money. And so when you have that and you start, hey, you guys are up against 6 other groups, put your pen to paper and sharpen your pencil and, best and final offer. Or if we run the minimum bid, the other scenario is we come back to this room, the buyers sit here, we have an auction, which is kind of I used to be a pit trader back in the day, so it's kind of interesting. It's a slow auction, but they come in here with their minimum bid of $6 million and they bid. And, we've all vetted these buyers, they've been approved by everybody, and we run the process and lock a price in that way. That's just another. Then there's a couple other scenarios that I don't think are necessary for this conversation, but from there, this isn't on. I have copies of this. These aren't on the slides. So this goes back to what you were talking about earlier, Chris. This is a sample bid matrix. So we get the groups at the table, we get everybody looking at the deal, and it's time. Let's get our offers in. So we have, I think, one with you. I don't know if you guys want to pass it around, or is it necessary? You guys want to take a look? So this goes back to the RFP. On the vertical column on the left are basically all the stipulations that we will put out in an RFP. This is what you have to satisfy. So going across the top are all the buyers. This is one of the deals we did last year. So you can see, first of all, we have a lot of participation in the deal. Second of all, it gives you a little sense of how complex these letters of intent, these purchase and sale agreements, with all the stipulations on that column on the right, or on the left, I should say. So this is another, you can see, we like to lay out the menu. Here are the buyers, and here's what they're offering. And then we can all sit down and go back and forth. These guys are good. We've closed 10 deals with these guys. We know these guys kind of well. We know this group over here. The women over here love these type of homes. They've been doing this. There's a lot of, in those LOIs, you'll see the groups that really want the home and really have plans. You can put the plans in there. What does it look like in 6 months? What is your key employee retention? Who is going to pass through to the new ownership? Who's not going to be? And those are things that we all, in the RFPs, that we can all talk about more to satisfy the transition for you and your constituents. To make sure, you're going with the right group and we're going the right way as far as the transition to new ownership. Is there any questions on any of that right now? And again, I know there'll be more questions after I'm gone, and I will leave you business cards, and please feel free to reach out to me anytime. So going on, the next couple of pages, 19, 20, are just some case studies of some of the deals. And we just tried to put these in there to just show you some of the different way these deals zig and zag. And I will let you read through those. It's not necessary for me to go through. Now I'm on page 20.
Excuse
I'm
me,
sorry.
this sample nursing and rehab sheet that you gave us, can you provide that electronically too?
Of course.
That or give me a magnifying glass.
I know. It took a while, Frank. It's usually about 30 seconds. Is there a telescope so I can see this thing? Of course, yes. We can get you whatever you guys would like. So I'm on page 20, not 21 now. And this kind of goes into our references. Like I said, we have the database, and we have probably 100 contacts, referrals that, deals that didn't close. But for the county homes that did close, we know this isn't your specialty, and you may want to, I don't want to talk to the intermediary, the broker. I would rather talk to somebody that's gone through this. And let me tell you, it's very valuable for you folks to do that. I would encourage you to do that. Whether you want to call these letters in here or just, hey, give me 10 references, and, we don't care who you call, but we'll give you whoever you need. And it just helps to walk, what happened, as the process went on, what was good, what was bad. And, I would definitely encourage all of you to do that as you're, working through discovery on this and deciding which way you all want to go. Next, on page 23, just kind of want to talk about the market real quick, just some macro points here, and just how things trade in the senior living space and long-term care. As I mentioned, the third and fourth quarter, with all the uncertainty in Washington with budget and reimbursement issues, whether it be federal level Medicare, on the state level, a lot of uncertainty that we're starting to get some clarity on. But in the third and fourth quarter, you had some major players flood the market with inventory. Kindred, which is a huge national provider, is exiting the space. They have about 400 assets that all went to market in the fourth quarter. Some of the bigger REITs that have overpaid in the last 3 or 4 years, occupancy is down across the board pretty much. Assisted living to skilled and independent living is pretty flat. But the reason I say this is there's a lot of inventory out there right now, but it's pretty much been flushed through. So the timing is good. The first and second quarter is usually when people engage, because these are longer transactions. People have their focus for the year, and the first and second quarter is usually a very good quarter to go to market. You can see on the bottom in the occupancy rates, you can see the colors really don't come out, but the takeaway is the 2 bars going down at the end of 16 is kind of the trend we're at. We're seeing it kind of flatten out, but the box to the right are cap rates. All these, cap rate is a synonym with NOI, net operating income, return. It's in our industry, they just call it cap rates. Nursing homes generally trade from 9 to 12% cap rates, but this is not a cap rate deal. If the asset's losing money, obviously, there's no cap rate there. The appealing part of a deal like this is the price per unit that they can get this for. A firm is going to want to buy this. If we were lucky enough to earn the business, a firm would want to come in, and the first part they're going to do, it's a value add play, first of all. Second of all, they're going to want to establish what kind of CapEx are they going to put into the facility to, spruce it up, reposition it in the neighborhood, in the community, whether that be with new employees, the remaining employees. It's always good to keep some of the folks that have worked at the home for a long time there for obvious reasons, unless they're not good at what they do. But every home has, at the end of the day, we're taking care of people. And that's in these transactions. A lot of groups, it turns into a commodity almost, but we try to think, at the end of the day, we're taking care of people. This is very important. And we understand that, and we know it's obviously very important for elected officials to, make sure we're properly vetting this entire process and doing the right thing for the residents of the community that live in the home. Page 24 is just some more macro points on the market in general. Don't want to bore you with those. You can read through there. And, back to our bios here at the end, the team members on page 26. This is our whole team. Mark Myers and Josh Jandris are our senior partner. You wouldn't just be hiring me if we were lucky enough to earn the business. You'd be hiring this whole team. A lot of us have geographic footprints. Brian Dolhide is with the Catholic Church, and they're biggest real estate owner in the country, and they have a lot of things that they're selling. So we have that. We have Jordan Berger. We have a capital markets division, so we can handle all financing if that's what people need. And Mark Myers is the first broker in our space to specialize specifically on senior living and long-term care. So he's been doing it for about 29 years and is very good at it. So then there's just some more bios in the back. So to kind of wrap it up, thanks again for having me in. I'm here as a resource. How do you guys get paid? That's always a big question. We don't charge anything unless the deal closes. Like, how do you do that? How do you travel? And that's just the risk we take. There's no sense in charging for expenses along the way. We want to earn your trust. We're in a relationship business, as I said, and we don't deserve to get paid unless we close the deal. So that's our outlook. And next question is always, well, what is that payment? And normally, well, all the time, it depends on the value of the home. It depends on what we think. And, it's usually 3%, 4%. We try to keep our fees at a minimum of $250,000 a deal, which, whoa, everyone looks back at that. But that goes back to, we want to push the price, and we want to get the best price, and we feel like we are going to earn that fee. So, having said all of that, I guess that's about it. We love what we do. We love to take a deeper dive, get to know your situation a little better, and hopefully bring it to a conclusion that works for both sides, primarily your community. And that's all I have. If you have any questions now, more than happy to.
I guess if the board was interested in moving forward, what's the process?
The process would be for me to get the financials, the floor plans. I would send an NDA to probably Susan, I would imagine, or maybe the administrator. We would exchange the financials. I give them to the analysts. They deconstruct them. We put them back together. We make a nice little pretty book and marketing package. That usually takes us about a week.
I assume that we have to sign some type of a contract with you prior to all that.
A representation agreement, yes. If that's up to you guys. If we get to that point, I can send you the rep agreement anytime. But we prefer to present the BOV, present our broker opinion of value is what the BOV is. It's basically just it's a valuation. Come back and present it to you, and you may say, you guys are nuts, we don't want to do this. Or you may say, yeah, let's explore this further. Let's take a look at the rep agreement, get the attorneys looking at it. And, like I said, every deal is different, and we want to do what is in your best interest. If we have to move quick, we'll move quick. If, we don't want to rush.
I assume you're very candid with us as well after you take that assessment and tell us what our chances are, what you feel.
Absolutely. We give
for
a
you.
probability on everything we do. And yes, we work for you. We work for the seller. And of course, we do an exclusive agreement because we need to control the process. And we don't want everyone working on our deals because it's not privy to our space, because it is a private, confidential, they don't need to know. It's between us, we bring the buyers, and, we work for you. So we will, if you guys, hey, we need this in 3 days, then guess what? We'll have it in 3 days. But we like to be, deliberate, and so we're covering everything so everybody's comfortable. There's a lot of, cooks in the kitchen on these transactions, and we want to appease everybody that's involved.
Yes, I just want to touch back on my first question. And so we've got the sample matrix bid here, and one of the lines here is that the proposer firmly agrees to maintain a licensed nursing facility until 2024. So what happens if we get all these bids, all these people that are interested, they agree to these proposals in the RFP, we close the deal. 2 years later, they decide to close. What recourse do we have at that point?
If they decide to close the
They
home?
decided to close, after we had closed on the deal and it was all done. And
Well, if they're not living up to the agreement we had, then there probably is going to be some litigation there, I would think. But that's another part of vetting the buyers and knowing how these groups operate. Knowing the groups that come in and, oh yeah, here's my LOI, and tie up the deal for 2 weeks, and that's a lot on us to find those groups that know, they know they're dealing with in the community, it's sensitive, and if that's what you agreed to do, that's what you need to do. Otherwise, don't even come to the party here.
I have a question over here, sir. Iowa is an open record state. I'm sure you've dealt with this all over the country. How do we deal with these confidentiality issues that you may want in comparison with the Iowa open records law?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so some of the information you have, you want to be kept confidential. We, on the other hand, are dealing with a state law that requires us to be quite open with respect to our records and our contracts and our
Sure.
agreements. How do we deal with that?
Well, it's all going to be on public record anyway. But going in, the confidentiality is, once they sign that agreement, they can't talk about it with, it's going to be public record. If they want to deep dive and go in and find all the facts, they can find them. And that's why it's a little different from the private to public. But it's just, it's kind of case by case. It's, they're under CA, they're under NDA, they can't, disclose any information from them. It's up to, it's your prerogative to disclose what, you guys need to disclose, if that makes sense.
Thank you, it does, yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So I'm assuming you'd be the broker then in this particular case, should we decide to do that?
It'll be me, our senior partners work on every
Even though
deal.
there's a team.
I specify, I focus in Iowa, and so that's why I'm here. Our senior partners are at a conference in Orlando, or otherwise one of them would have been here today with me. And the next meetings, it'll either be Josh or Mark, depending on, Josh is more, he kind of leans towards senior living more, and Mark is more the nursing home. And so it's again, if you hire me, you're hiring the whole group.
But it's you primarily.
I will be your
Work is
point of
done.
contact, yes, of course.
Well, and this kind of carries over a little bit from what Pete was talking about too, the communication with the board and how you would, obviously being very different as a public entity, how you would handle something like that. It's not, I would assume many times it's just with the CEO.
Right, or their finance committee, if it's a REIT, they have an investment committee. If the bank owns it, they have an investment committee. But for this situation, it's we work for you. We need you to come and talk at this meeting. We need you to come back and meet with us, or, in a closed door session. That's, I'm 3 hours away, 4 hours away, and our office is right by O'Hara because we travel constantly, and we're here for you. And so that's, it's a team, and again, we all have to be aligned in these transactions, and we want to, surprises kill deals. And so the more we vet, the more we're all aligned on the front end, those surprises don't pop up down the road, which,
What experience have you had working with facilities that have complex patients, particularly mental health issues? Have you worked with facilities?
yes, most probably 70% of the nursing homes we work with have, whether it's vents, trachs, behavioral, we've dealt with all of it. And most of them have, whether it's 5 units or some of these, the ones we did out, the 400, 500 beds, they usually have whole floors of behavioral. And from our perspective, it really doesn't change the transaction, except we have to bring the groups that deal with these types, and that's how we handle that. When that'll all be, on the front end of the marketing package. This is what you're dealing with. This is the census. These are the breakdown of, behavioral, bariatrics, whatever it is. That's we vet the groups coming to the table by that. So you guys don't have any behavioral. What are you going to do here? And it's like, oh, we didn't know it was behavioral. Sorry, we're out. And just cross them off that way or bring them in.
You did touch on the market in this area because of the abundance that we have of facilities in long-term healthcare, that could possibly be a potential market for us as well, someone in the community.
Absolutely. We like to think of bringing a national perspective to a local level. Our marketing process, we like to work in concentric circles. So we start locally, then we go to the regional players, and then we go to the national players. So, in Iowa, there's probably, Care Initiatives and ABCM are the biggest players in the state. They have each 35, 40 assets. And then there's, Ensign is a big group. I don't know if you know a lot of the groups, but we know the majority. There's the mom and pops, the single asset owners that have 1, 2, or 3 assets are getting unbelievably squeezed right now, as you guys know. And in Iowa with managed care, a lot of these homes we did in the Northeast because managed care came in the Northeast 4 or 5 years ago. And it's a different reimbursement that if you're not on top of the changes every year, if your operators don't know all of those changes, and the economies of scale, it just gets more and more expensive for a person that only has 1 or 2 assets. If a person has 8 assets in the area, they only pay 1 executive director. They only pay 1 regional director. The food they buy is at a better cost. The labor, the biggest problem in Iowa, and Waterloo is not going to be that big of a problem, but it's the labor pool. There's just not a lot of labor in these smaller towns to pull out of the colleges or the people that would live there. A lot of these towns have had, I would argue that they're not getting any smaller. But the labor issues are a big problem with smaller owner-operators. And so you're going to find these groups that are, that know how to do these MCOs, that know how to navigate. It's a completely different game from what they're used to as far as reimbursement goes, and that's a lifeline in the business. And so if you don't know how to do it, it's a death spiral. It just gains momentum as it goes. And so it's a tough market. We like to be as honest and candid as possible. It's a hard market right now. 3 years ago, we would have, 20 people show up for an LOI for a deal that's losing money. We get the value add players. And now it'll probably be 6 to 10 that will be interested, just for a lot of different reasons, whether they've, people play the game differently. People play for 5 to 7 years and they flip. For a deal like this, that's not the right group. You need somebody that's going to come in and wants to run this place for the next 20 years, 30 years. And that's the key to finding the right groups, and it makes the deal a lot better. And the end results are usually a lot better.
And if we put stipulations on it that are too difficult, and maybe we don't have that pool.
Well, that's when we can talk and say, this might hurt us more than help. We want to get as many folks interested in the deal as possible to drive the competition, the valuation up. Mm-hmm. But we also need to protect your interests and protect what's going on locally, and so that's where our expertise, where you don't have to call an attorney and go through all of that. And we have plenty of attorneys that we can refer. Obviously, also I have some good friends in Des Moines that are experts in this. They're outstanding in what they do. But to bring use us to get to that point where okay, let's give them one last read through. But we can. Mark has been doing this for 30 years, and his knowledge and getting into the deal and the specifics, the creative structures that may need to happen to make this work, that's the value we bring to the transaction. That's our biggest value proposition, I would say.
Yeah, definitely a difficulty for us. Like you said, it's very hard to navigate through something like that.
It's hard to
anyway,
navigate when you guys, you have how many balls in the air, 100 balls in the air. Now we have to worry about this, and it's, You know, we like to take that out so you guys don't, you know, hopefully you're comfortable with our group, that, you know, you're not freaking out and stressing out about it every night about, oh, we have to have this done, we have to have this done. That's what we want to do, because, and so you guys can just keep doing your jobs and not have to focus on this, because it's a sore spot. We know that, we understand that. So we'd like to make it clean and you know, clear the deck so you guys can move on.
Well, I think it is something maybe we should have considered earlier, and it's something I think with all we listen to the opinions and thoughts of, excuse me, different people that were just trying to assist us, but didn't think there was a market at all for it, and so that it was not something we should even look into. So
No, there's, you know,
consider.
you know, there's all different buyers, you know, that we focus on 30 to 50 beds. We focus on 100 to 150 is a sweet spot for a lot of groups. For somebody that's coming into the market, they need a little more than 50 beds to make sense for them. With a home like yours, there's optionality, there's lots of beds, there's, you know, there's a lot of things they can do. Whether it's, you know, maybe we build a new facility, you know, next to it, if, I don't know what the land situation is, but there's a lot of leeway on that.
Great. Good.
Any other questions?
Glad to have options.
Thank you very much for, hold it, Shirley?
Of course.
I was just wondering, is it up to the board to tell you how you want it done? I mean, I know you want to look at this, but like you say, well, we want to keep most of our employees, all these residents, and keep residents there. Is that up to the board to let you know what they want out there before you try to sell?
Absolutely, and that's part of the RFP. The RFP, that's request for proposals, is what the RFP is. I'm sorry, there's so many acronyms. It's like alphabet soup sometimes, but that is the RFP. That's where we, you know, on that bid matrix that you guys obviously didn't see, all those things on the left are all the boxes that they have to check. You know, they can't do this, they can't do that. We have to spend X amount of money on CapEx. Capital expenditures is what that is, and it's renovations, putting money back into the facility. You know, you need to do 5% of your revenue a year on CapEx. You need to keep employee X, keep employee Y for at least X amount of years. You know, and that's stuff where we work with the board, but ultimately it is the board's decision. But we advise on that and work together to come up with everything that makes sense for primarily your community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And let me. I'm sorry. Please feel free to reach out anytime. We can set up conference calls and.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to introducing you.
Thank you.
Josh and Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thanks very
Have a
much
good
for
day.
coming.
Have a safe trip home.
I have a card too.
Of course.
Why don't you leave several cards here for us?
Lots of questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving on to budget work session, discussion, possible board action, consideration of all aspects of the fiscal year 2019 Blackhawk County budget. Susan.
Okay.
Well, we have several things to go over today and some things to make decisions on. And I guess just wondering where you would like to start. I did pass out some more information and with a couple scenarios, and then let me pull up the hold on. As I mentioned, I had an incorrect number in my debt service tax askings. So what we are looking at, without anything put in there for Country View, is a total tax askings increase of $502,321, or 1.3%. Down there a little bit. I did make a few changes. As I mentioned, there was a change in HR, capital, a change in operating expenses in IT, And then I did, just for the sake of putting in the numbers, put in the non-bargaining equity adjustment that we discussed on Tuesday. So looking at that, there's a decrease in tax askings in the general fund, increase in county services, an increase in the debt service. This is the number that changed a little bit and an increase in rural basic. So that's where we are right now. I don't know if you want to start with salaries.
What's not in there right now?
So right now, so what we have to look at today, all of the capital requests that the departments have made are included, except for elections has a change that they want to talk about today. There is $60,000 in board agency funding at the moment.
Is that in there?
That's in there. So
Okay,
in
what don't you have in there right now under that 1.3%? Country View is the only thing?
basically Country View, and if you want to change any board funding, or there was a new agency this year requesting, and then on the capital side, I do have, so the 40,000 that was requested by elections originally is in there, but it's, I right now have it shown taken out of supplemental reserves. And if you, I'm not sure if that's what you do or not want to do. We did that last year for the ones we did, but so otherwise, everything else that has been requested is in there, along with 3% for non-bargaining and elected officials, and the equity adjustment that was discussed on Tuesday.
So what's the difference of the election?
So if you want to talk about election.
Sure. The initial figure we had was $40,000 for new laptops, and since there's money left in our budget this year that doesn't look like it's going to be expended, we could use some of that with the estimate that we're using right now for $600 per laptop, which Kim Veeder thinks should be the high side. We would get 15 laptops this year, which would be $9,000, and then we would, for next year's budget, want to budget 41, which would be $24,600 rather than the $40,000.
And that money was coming from where, Susan?
She had it in the reserves.
In the reserve?
In the reserves, but if you want to tax for it, I mean, that's a decision you can.
What's our percentage in that portion of the reserves?
So right in, at the end of FY17, we had 2,888,000. Hold on.
This item here for the elections is one of the few items that can be taken out of that fund.
Talking about the supplement, Frank?
Yeah.
All of the elections is under supplemental.
Yeah. 43%, I think, Frank. Sorry, I was looking at that. Or actually, that's the wrong. Anyway, yes, employee benefits, insurance, some juvenile detention, those types of things come out of the supplemental, can come out of the supplemental, and elections.
Is the 3 salaries still in there for the people out at Pinecrest for CSS?
I haven't put them in here yet. I mean, if we approve the equity adjustment, I would put them in, but it wouldn't impact the tax askings or the change in the middle.
I'd
It
rather
wouldn't
have
change
them
that.
left under us for now. For all general purposes. They're longtime employees, and you don't know what the course of CSS is going to be with all the changes that are coming, just what we've seen in the last few months.
Their salary's still reimbursed by.
I was going to say, they're still in the pot, even if they're pulled back.
I know, but leave them under us, not under CSS.
Well, Right, I mean, if we did the adjustment, County Social Services would reimburse us for those expenditures.
Yeah.
That would work out, but. So what I have is the board agency spreadsheet that I handed out. If you want to approve those or discuss those. I have the list of capital, if you want to go through those. If you want to go through and look at each department again, just to see, we can go down the list here, or,
I think we need to do Country View first. That'll determine on the salaries and the nonprofits and so forth. So there's no reason to keep putting it off. We might as well go to Country View because we're gonna have to fund something. Is that correct?
right. But right now I have, I have some board agency funding, I have the salary increases. I don't know if you want to make a decision on those things.
I guess I'd rather move on our budgets except for Country View first, before we move to that.
But I don't know what the number's gonna be. I mean, are you gonna be an 8% increase? You may want to cut back on some of the agencies. It's the only point I'm trying to say.
But I think
You may not want to fund as much.
this has,
Well, we can always go back, though, and make some changes, even if we do see that, take some items
I'd
out.
like to see us stay at the $60,000 level for boards and agencies.
This spreadsheet that I handed out has the, various tax askings, and all I did was have without Country View, and then basically increasing it 1 million, 1.5, 2 million. I did redo the estimate for, Country View. Genevieve had called to say the ICFID rate that she had originally given me was incorrect. So with County Social Services included, it's looking like just a little over 2 million as an estimated loss on the 132 residents.
That's Lincoln's portions in there yet?
Yes, that County Social Services is still in there at a little over 1 million.
Okay. If he pulls that out when they do their budget, then we'll just have to deal with it with reserves.
Well, I guess that's,
better change how we operate the facility.
Yeah.
Would you put up agencies then?
so we have the agencies and then we have the libraries down at the bottom. So this was in this FY19 requested column. That was the amount that was requested on the letters that they had sent in. The FY18 amount, this is the amount that we had budgeted, not including these shaded ones. Those were ones that we did last year, but are not requesting this year. So those top 5, that 60,000 is what I have in there right now.
Top 5.
Top 5.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, the food bank, Operation Threshold, UNI, NEI 3A, and legal aid. These-
NEI 3A didn't put any amount in a letter, they just asked
They
for our support.
Right. And then Riverview Center was a new one this year.
What's the, what'd you say for legal aid? What were you putting in there?
This FY18 column right here, not these shaded ones down here, but these 5 here, that's what I currently have in, that's what we are doing for the current year in FY18 for those.
What we did last
So
year.
the current funding for those 5 agencies would be the 60,000.
Yes.
I guess I'm looking at it. I don't see 60,000.
Well, 30 for the food bank, 10 for Operation Threshold, 5 for UNI and NEI, and 10 for legal aid.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And that's it.
Yep.
60.
I can live with that.
Well, NEI 3A didn't state the 5,000 that they were requesting. I guess I don't really see a reason to stick that in there without them
That's true.
asking for it. And that's my question was about county social services. I know they fund NEI 3A or provide funding there, but, so it's a question at least
Well,
for here to.
that's on the ropes too, I think.
Oh,
I could agree to take that NE 3A on.
NI 3A does, delivery of food for the elderly.
is that what they use our funding for? Or I guess, and there were some
I-
years we didn't fund them at
Oh,
all, I saw
okay.
in there.
Yeah, I
I
know.
don't know.
I know last year's presentation said it was all for the Meals on.
Yeah, Meals on Wheels.
Meals on Wheels. And this year it didn't state that, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I guess I could support the 5 that we have up there the way it's listed.
Did we get a letter, you say, from them?
Yeah, I'm looking through it again.
But
It's
it didn't
just-
mention any amount. It was
Oh,
talking
it's
about
just a
support.
straight letter.
Kind of like, could you support us or something, or maybe they left that for us.
They just say we rely upon the funding from your county and the other 18 counties to provide vital match for federal funds, as well as to provide required match for competitive grants we seek. Match is required by federal and state law to be used to expand programs we provide, so please know the funds you provide stay local.
That's-
But they don't mention an amount,
And that's why I thought it was this.
whether they were just,
kind of fund.
yeah,
It was
requesting the
support
same
like the other
amount.
18, but-
Do we know how many counties we
Assumed.
serve?
Pardon me?
How many counties?
You know, they 16 or
16 or 18, I think it is.
I think in the future, Susan will request a little bit more information on their funding from other counties.
Yeah, just like Food Bank.
Yeah.
She says that they're giving help in other ways. Well, Blackhawk County not only gives them the 30,000, every citizen in a number of citizens in Blackhawk County donate monies to it too, so that's double.
Yeah,
Are you leaving that one in, Susan, the 5,000?
Oh, that's up to the board.
it's all in there
Yeah.
right now. is
Linda,
what
are you
you're saying.
leaving it in? You said at one time you wanted to pull it.
I have 60,000, the same amount,
Yeah.
those
But
top,
it
that we
went the
did
same as it
in
was
this
last
current year.
30, 10, 10, 30, 10, 5, 5, 10.
That's what I have right now in the tax
That's what's in there.
askings.
That's already
Yeah.
in.
Leave it like that.
I can support it. I just think they should have asked for it.
I do too.
And we should have
Need
made them.
additional information next
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
yeah.
Is anybody else then in that category on the top that we're gonna fund that we didn't receive any notification from, letter or anything request?
No, all of
We've heard from
those,
all.
Okay,
those 5 sent in letters. And then the other one we received was from this Riverview Center.
I'm good with the 60,000.
so I guess I'm hearing that the consensus is that we're good with that unless we want to vote on
That we're good with the 60 that we had, or
Yeah.
we have in now.
Let's hold a vote, that way there's no, let's call for a roll
Yeah,
call.
okay.
I'd support investing more, but it doesn't sound like we have that support, so. it's-
You'd support what? I'm sorry?
I would support investing more than the 60,000, but, just because needs grow every year, but it doesn't sound like that's what we have support for.
So we have support for the 60,000 for the top 5, 30, 10, 5, 5, 10. Roll call vote, or all in
I'd have a roll
it. We
call.
have to have a motion on it or
motion for approval.
So moved.
second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Magsman,
Yes,
Schwartz,
No,
White.
Yes.
Okay. Then the libraries, this is their history of what we funded. In this current year, FY18, it's $141,000. We kept it the same as FY17. Previous to that, we had done increases of $5,000 and $4,000 those previous 2 years. This year, they're requesting a $5,000 increase to $146,000.
and what was their justification?
So that letter should have been in the routing file. Did you want me to read it, or?
Just, did they,
It was a summary.
the reasoning for the increase?
Yeah.
Um,
Have it.
um, Oh, okay. Libraries still provide shared resources to the public, increased Wi-Fi use by adults and students, increased shipping costs. I know they've had their route with AEA taken away, and so they have to pay for their interlibrary loans now. Continued need for hardware and accessing information, including government services and job searches. The internet has not stifled the need for public libraries. Libraries have used it to enable Iowans to become more engaged in seeking, learning, and creating. They still circulate lots of books. Black Hawk County Public Library circulated over 1 million items last year.
I know the question in the past been asked if it was for pay raises.
I think they provide an important role in our community. I was going to say, when you look at the services there, so.
Oh, we have a
I
legal
could support
limit.
that.
We're way above that legal limit.
And we've kind of held them at, I said the 141,000, I think we didn't give them any when they've requested it previously too, so. I'm sure their needs are there.
Have a motion to some effect?
I'll have a motion to fund the 146,000.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Little,
Yes.
Maxman,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
White.
Yes. Motion passes. Next.
Okay. Do you want to take action on salary increases for non-bargaining and the equity adjustment?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. What I have in there right now is the 3% for non-bargaining, and I sent the email with the, what that increase was. 3% increase. Was about 164,000.
Was the bargaining units rate?
The bargaining is receiving a 3% increase across the board.
I'll make a motion to approve the 3% for full-time employees only.
Do we, I mean, and I'm just asking how many, are there several part-time employees that would not receive that? I guess just.
There's not too many non-bargaining, not part-time. There's a couple in the attorney's office. There's, is Debbie here?
No.
Elections.
No, she's
Elections.
gone,
I'm not sure. There's the commissary clerks, I think. I can't remember if there's any other.
yeah. No, it's just
Does that include the equity adjustments?
the one you're requesting.
No.
No, this
that's
is just
separate.
no, 3%.
Was there a second on the 3%?
Well, I guess we were thinking.
So I think I'm not sure if the non-bargaining, there's part-time non-bargaining in the, like attorney's office, and I think the commissary clerks are under that classification. The part-time individuals in the elections office, I don't think they're in the non-bargaining. They're like hourly employees, which is, I think, a different classification, but I don't think Debbie's here, so I have to clarify that.
They've been receiving the 3%.
They have, but I don't think they need to fall under this non-bargaining, but I'm not sure about that. That's a question maybe for Debbie, and
I think we should get Debbie on it, but I believe that when they were given increases in the past, it wasn't under a blanket increase for non-bargaining. I believe it was addressed separately. I'm sorry, I can't give you more information on that, but maybe Debbie knows. Karen, I don't know if you remember from last year or not.
They would not fall under the non-bargaining.
How do you process the wages through HR then? The increase?
They were hourly and they fell across that, across the board where all part-time, full-time.
right. I think we kind of talked about that. I'm not sure if it was a miscommunication on how that should work once they were set up to remain permanently in the system. But they're classified as hourly employees, which is a different classification in the payroll system than the non-bargaining. So I don't know that they would fall under that necessarily.
Was the resolution when the board passed that from or seasonal workers or temporary workers? Didn't the resolution say part-time workers? Use the term part-time?
I think the resolution was related to non-bargaining, but I'm not sure if it said anything about,
So what are you saying as far as the 3%? This won't cover it?
That's separate, the hourly workers.
If you say it's for full-time only, then it wouldn't include part-time.
No,
Okay, full-time, that was part of my motion.
So what are the part-time positions like in the commissary and in your office, Brian, that wouldn't, how many positions are we talking about there that wouldn't be included then?
I think that Brian has,
Two for
there's
Tony,
two
right?
commissary, two in the attorney's office.
Tony, didn't you create those positions, salaries yourself? Correct. Because you're paying for them out of there. So basically, I think it's up to him whether raises are in line for them because the money's coming out of the commissary and he created those salaries. Is that correct? Yeah.
I guess I'm not sure why we would not cover those that are working part-time
Yeah, I don't know why.
under the, if they fall under the non-bargaining unit or non-bargaining.
if they fall under that, yeah.
Right, and those
But I
employees do.
understand.
Those
My problem-
employees are
My
working.
problem is some of them are making more than the people out at Country View
Exactly.
that
So,
have been here for X amount of years, and these guys are come in for 6 weeks and make more money an hour than the people at Country View. That's not a good picture.
Well, I'm not,
We were talking about equity yesterday. Now, there's some equity problems. There's some real equity problems.
well, maybe that's something we need clarified, I guess.
but these aren't the part-time non-bargaining people. I mean, those employees are working weekly,
No, I'm not
half-time.
talking about them.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about the part-time ones that come in the elections office.
My
they
motion is
wouldn't-
for 3% for full-time employees, non-bargaining, hourly, or whatever.
But nobody can answer that question yet. I know where you're going with that. I just.
Well,
looked
if
that
it's
up,
full-time,
Which
that's your
exact
answer
positions
right
they
there.
are. Yeah, but I hate
I-
to penalize somebody that really we shouldn't be.
I guess I'm saying if you did a 3% for non-bargaining part-time, it would not include those hourly election employees.
Are those the ones who primarily,
Or if you wanted to specify that, you could do that. But
they're not included now.
I'm sorry.
That, they're not included in this category now.
In my opinion, they shouldn't be, but I guess really Debbie
Well, we can
needs
wait
to
then, we
specify.
can delay it if you
Yeah.
need to get clarification from Deb. I say they're part-time. That's what the resolution was when we voted on it. You can classify them hourly or whatever you want to do, but when it's sent through payroll downstairs, it's for part-time employees.
I don't know.
You want to clarify it, we could get it clarified.
I guess,
She's not here, is she?
no, she's not till.
Debbie's at a
She's
conference.
out the rest of the
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
So you have concern with my motion of 3% for full-time employees only?
I don't have
That-
concern with it, Tom.
that's fine.
I'm not saying I wouldn't support it. I just thought I'd like to make sure who's in it, who's not, and.
And I
under-
think you've seen the reasoning why for that. I think I've said
I
it out
am-
in the past on that.
Well, and then that's excluding, there's a certain group I know we were looking at, or,
But I think what she's talking about, I don't even know who they are. The sheriff's already got his group. Brian, are those tax funded, your two people, or are they through your fund? Did we set those salaries?
Originally, yes, one was originally a full-time position years ago,
Mhm.
many years ago. I believe in 2006 it became part-time. And the last one you gave me funding last year, which is originally.
How many hours they working? 20
They do probably 27, I'd say.
a week.
I don't know if, I don't want to put Helen on the spot, but I don't know if Helen could help out.
You're on the spot, Henry.
So the question is, if the board approves an increase across the board for non-bargaining employees, whether they're full-time or part-time, does that necessarily include the hourly employees? Because I don't think they're set up as non-bargaining for like the election workers.
Part-time election workers?
Right. Because I don't think they're classified as non-bargaining.
No, they originally, back several years ago, they were
given the same titles as Unit 1 employees. But then they were made part-time and they were called election clerks. But they're still clerical folks, and so they were not all the time, but in recent years, they were getting the same across the board as Unit 1 employees, not as non-bargaining as Unit 1.
So an approval for an increase in non-bargaining, whether they're full-time or part-time, would just go for the non-bargaining classification?
Yes.
Okay,
We don't have that many
Yeah.
part-time non-bargaining.
right.
That I'm aware of.
So I'm thinking there's 2 in the attorney, 2 in the commissary, and I don't know if there's any others.
Quite a few other countries.
Not
No.
non-bargaining.
No. There's a motion on the floor. I think you came in after. There's a motion on the floor
Okay.
for a 3% approval for full-time only, non-bargaining. And so we were trying to see what
We're
that
trying to figure
considers
out
in that.
what that means.
What that means for who it applies to, or what positions, not who, but what positions, and
That would be different than past.
yes. Right.
I mean, my worry is that we're punishing those employees in the attorney's office, which
Yeah.
I think should be included in this.
I
Yeah.
guess one way to look at it is, Billy and I are doing the same job, I'm full-time, she's part-time. I get a raise, she doesn't, but we're doing the same job. That's not real fair.
But it comes,
And that was just an example, I'm not saying.
Yeah,
you are.
no.
yeah, but election workers aren't working
Full-time.
But the election workers are not in the non-bargaining class.
So we can
So they're
treat
not-
that separately.
I'm sorry?
So we can treat that
Yes,
particular sector separately.
yes.
Clear as mud.
And not,
Do I have a second on Mr. Little's motion?
I'll second it so we can vote on
Okay.
it. I don't agree with it, but I'll second it.
You understand what the motion is?
The motion is to only pay the 3% to
Full-time
full-time
employees.
employees in the non-bargaining category.
Full-time employees.
Roll call vote, or roll call vote, please.
Magsman,
No,
Schwartz,
No.
Leyland,
no.
Little,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
I'd make a motion to, for the 3% raise for all non-bargaining.
Second.
Does that include,
I don't know whether it includes.
I don't know
No,
either.
it doesn't include.
I just
Doesn't
know what
include-
we,
If it doesn't include them, they're not included.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
it includes everybody that,
Supposed to be in there.
no.
if you want to take a vote on the election workers separately, why don't you just do that first?
I just don't know why we gotta treat it separately. They're part-time employees. That's what the resolution said that day when we passed it. Am I right? Or did it say
Yeah.
we made them hourly workers?
They're part-time employees is how they're,
And like I said,
referred
Grant,
to.
when we talked about this before, it has nothing to do with election people. They were, at one time, they were what? Was it temporary workers? And there was, about 3 or 4 years ago, there was reasoning that we had to put it on the agenda every year.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So your request was to make them part-time.
right.
But I just don't know if the board understood that also meant that they would receive the 3%, which they have. If you look at the salaries, they've
really not. You
exceeded
just come back once a
a
year.
good percentage of what country view full-time people are working.
Well, I don't know, I'm not saying anything against Country View workers, but I think you need to look at the jobs that are being done before you.
No,
Make an
I
apples to
understand
apples
that, but you've
comparison.
also got the election workers, some of them, if it's off year, it's not a presidential year, what do they work? How many hours total in a month?
Some months they don't work at all,
Yeah.
so they're not getting paid at all.
No, I understand that. Would you get a copy of the list of the salaries to the board?
Tom, I would just mention that when they were temporary employees, they also got across-the-board raises.
Well, there was, since I've been here, Grant brought to the table that they were far behind other cities. So the board at that time had an increase. This had nothing to do with pay increases. It was a increase for their wages to bring them up to a level where we could get people to apply for it.
I think you're talking more about precinct workers in that discussion.
The only thing I'm saying is the wages right now are around the $17 an hour range. And Country View's got workers out there at $14, $15.
They're also represented by a union.
Yeah.
$15 people are the tech guys, right?
Yeah, our election clerks are making $14.26 an hour and our.
Could the board get a list of your 12, there's 12 is what HR said, of the quote, part-time workers?
Yes, we have 8 machine techs and 4 election clerks.
We get that list?
The, the election clerk is at $14.69. A PEO trainer is at $17.40. And then the voting machine techs range between $15.37 and $17.57. These are the voting machine techs. These are the current wages.
16, 17, 16.
These are the election clerk positions,
17.
What's the,
current wages.
what's the 6,100, what's that, the hours worked or what is that?
So this column here is for how many hours estimated they're going to work in FY19. And this is the estimate down here for how many hours.
Okay. All right.
I just like to say for the, I think within 3 years, we shouldn't have anybody working for less than $15 in the county. And that's just to keep up with the massive cost of living increases.
Should look at probably an equity in that line item there too.
I'm sorry?
Should look at an
excuse
equity there in that line item. I think they were forgotten.
In which line item?
Call for the motion.
I was going to say, I think, yeah.
We have a motion, do we have a second on the floor?
I believe so.
Yes.
All right,
Chris
motion and a
seconded.
second.
Yeah,
That's right.
we did.
Motion and a second on the floor to pay the part-time workers.
Well, it's to pay all,
Non-bargaining.
Pay all workers 3%, yeah.
It's all non-bargaining, correct?
Yes,
Correct.
that
All
was
right,
the
correct. That was the
Whatever,
mo-
yeah.
I just wanted to
Right.
make sure.
Yes.
All part-time, hourly, potential hirees.
All non-bargaining.
Call for the vote. Grant, roll call, please.
Quick.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little,
No.
Magsman,
yes.
White.
Yes. Next.
Do the equity.
Yes. So adding salaries and, or adding benefits and the across-the-board, that equity adjustment really that I needed to add was $6,047 in the general fund. I didn't calculate out the rest of the equity adjustments, but it would be the, hold on. That total amount was $19,217, which we would, that's the FY18 amount. So you would add the 3% and then add the benefits to that.
And they are added in now. You added in the numbers correctly now.
That 6,047 was just the amount that was in the general
In the
fund,
general
because
fund,
that was
yep.
just the amount that impacted
What was it to
taxes.
show what the average increase was on some of those?
The average increase, the one in the general fund was the highest. So it was the 5,000 and then plus the 3% in benefits. The next one is a county social services employee at 4,500. Then there were some Country View people.
There was a total of
She's got a
7, I
big raise.
think.
Yeah, I know it.
She just got a big, we just voted her a big raise just recently.
So this is Non-bargaining workers, is that correct?
This is a different county social services employee. I mean, there is a county social services employee at,
No, it's not.
I think, yeah.
I saw the name on the list, it's the
Yeah,
one
it's the
Craig's
same person.
talking about.
at 2018, I think is the one you're thinking of, but
It's the one that we changed her classification and she got a big raise for it. For CSS.
okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think that was.
And it's not that's
responsibility
because she's
also.
a she. Don't get to take that.
No.
Write that in the paper.
Yeah.
I'll make
you-
a motion, we approve equity for all non-bargaining employees
That was second?
of 3%.
I'm not sure what that means.
3% equity increase for all non-bargaining employees.
Well,
Plus-
it wasn't 3%. I think they were just, what took them to equity. the
it was
equity
taking
position,
them-
whatever's
I know
needed.
exactly what it is, I just
Well,
made a
3%.
motion for all non-bargaining. 3% plus the 3% raise that was just voted on.
Oh, okay. All right.
I know what I was saying.
I know what you're saying. I just need to understand it, what you're saying. That's all. But that's not what we're talking about as far as the 3%.
We're talking-
You're just trying to, okay.
We're talking about equity. My motion covers all employees.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know a dollar amount on that, and it's certainly not in this budget.
You said 3% equity for all non-bargaining employees, less the 3% just voted on?
No,
Oh, I thought I heard.
no. That 3% was already passed for
Okay, so this is an additional.
annual
3.
increase. This is an additional 3%.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it, vote on
How would that affect the budget?
it.
got it.
It would double or more than double the 160,000.
That's what I thought.
Make-
It would do what Chris is talking about, bringing them up.
Get everybody past $15 an hour.
Besides that, what difference does it make?
We have to do it equitably.
We are, we're giving it to everybody.
Well, we had 200,000, we said last year, if we'd have taken everybody equitably, and we were trying to phase it in so that it didn't impact the budget. But negatively.
Call for the question.
Oh, I think she's
think it's
looking
a-
at that. She's telling us what it'll be for cost.
I don't want to be pulling up people's names, but
I want to be accurate.
it, all right, I think this is my total, 318,899 for 6%, basically.
Well, you've already got the 3%'s
Right.
already in there.
Right,
it's
so
3%.
another,
So it'd be half that, wouldn't it?
yeah, 164, 419 for another 3%.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Roll call, Mr. Beater.
Leyland,
No.
Little,
Yes.
Magsman,
No,
Schwartz,
No.
White.
No.
I would,
Tried, folks.
I would make a motion to approve the equity adjustment presented to us for fiscal year 2019 in the amount of 6,000 plus.
Yeah. Second.
Well, oh, can I say, that total equity adjustment would be 19,000 plus for
Right,
everybody?
but out of the general
General
fund.
funds.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, second.
Any further discussion? Everyone understands this, right?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're not just doing the general fund, correct? We're doing.
We're doing all,
For all
the
of them.
total.
Well, it
We're
was,
going to one
just-
just.
Yes,
The ones
my
that are on the
motion
list.
includes all equity
yes,
Yeah.
adjustments.
but I haven't done salaries and benefits on it, but for the, it's,
I get it from.
I get a total.
Ready.
Ready. Roll call. Mr. Beater?
Little.
No.
Magsman.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
White.
Yes. Resolution adopted. Next.
Okay. Would you like to go over the capital?
I'm not sure.
Oh, we got elected officials.
Oh, yes, elected officials, I'm sorry.
Make a motion, we approve the compensations recommendation of 4%.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Magsman.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
White.
No.
It's every year.
Head spinning. Next.
Okay.
Capital.
Capital. So I summarized everything into one spreadsheet that I handed out to you. I don't know if you just want to go down the list and look at the total, if you have any specific things you want to
I
discuss.
think we ought to have a discussion on that phone again.
Mm-hmm.
I'd just soon pull that out for a year. Means that everything is working.
Rory, you were going to do a little more information on that, weren't you, as far as follow-up on service and
Yeah,
what
there
happens?
was a question as far as implementation time. If this was approved, how long would it take to install? And I've got approximately 6 weeks, and it would be done in phases. So for an example, each location would be done before it went on to the next location, with a total time of about 6 weeks. Was there any other questions with regards to the phone system?
I think we talked about any type of notification if they stopped servicing us altogether. I mean, should we have a failure?
From my understanding, the manufacturer will go back 2 revisions and provide support. Right now, we outsource to a company called Marco to provide our maintenance on the system. So if we had an internal failure, as we sit right now, Marco would be responsible to take care of that. We are at the 2 revision point at this time, so there is that possibility that the manufacturer could come back at us and say we can no longer support your system.
Well, we got a year agreement left on the contract.
We have a 1 year, I believe it's a 1 year left on that 3-year contract with Marco. So essentially, there is a possibility that if the system failed tomorrow, we have confidence that Marco would be able to come in and work through that, but there is that slight possibility that they wouldn't have the support from the manufacturer. So we'd be putting all of our, we'd be relying on that contract that we have with Marco to provide that service and their expertise. So I wouldn't say that we would 100% be backed up by the manufacturer, but as it sits right now, we don't foresee there being any immediate problems with the system.
When's the last time we've had some real issues with the system?
We actually had a situation yesterday. It wasn't 100% on the phone system, but it was with regards to a T1 line that feeds to the Country View facility. And we use this T1 line not only for the phone system, but it also carries the data to the Country View Care Center. We had a situation where we had lost that data yesterday. Again, it's not 100% on the phone, but the two kind of intermingle. Fortunately, in this case, it was a matter of resetting the server on Country View's end to get that system back up and running. But it did take us some time to discover that was the issue and work through the problem. So it's really hit and miss.
I think that the phone service out there has been a problem, particularly when the soil gets damp, wet out there. We lose service. I would favor moving forward with the new phone system.
I guess just to touch a little bit too on Grant's discussion the other day too with regards to elections and adding more extensions. I did verify that with the IP system, that would be realized very easily with the IP system. It would be literally a matter of putting a switch and running further data lines in that area during a heavy election. So it would give us that great flexibility to be able to accommodate the elections department during that time.
And that would take care of, I guess this question's for Grant, that would take care of us being, instead of being last, one of the first ones in then? Serious.
No, this doesn't have anything to do with calling in election results.
How come we're always last, or one of the last ones in? I thought that.
First of all,
that's what we were talking about.
No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about serving voters on election day.
Well,
And I'm not sure that where we are in terms of first or last and getting results in, but we get them in time for people to know who won before the night's out. And sometimes it's better than others, and we can talk about various individual circumstances if you like. But it's you should come down here on election night sometime
I've been down here.
and see what goes on, and maybe you'd have a better understanding.
Susan, would this qualify for under the special provision?
I'm not sure what you mean.
I lost the special supplemental account.
No, this wouldn't. Oh, you mean, well,
Could a
I
portion
think
of-
Rory has it broken down by like buildings, but I don't know how we would break it down by departments necessarily.
Like, do we do that, break it down for the assessor's office, or it's just all one system, and do we ever?
It is
We
one
charge-
system, I
we
don't
charge
think.
back to the assessor, don't we, Rory?
Well,
Phone system?
Currently,
They-
right now, each department, it's my understanding that we do pay for our own, like, long-distance
right.
services.
We break the phone bill, the
But the
Yeah, the
telephone
phone.
charges down
But the
between
systems.
department, but the system, I don't know that.
No, I guess the best scenario would be Pinecrest. There would be for this particular $150,000 of this $364,000 goes towards Pinecrest, which we would ultimately get some of those funds back from
Through DHS.
through
yeah.
DHS.
The only one I have broken out here is Country View because that would come out of Country View. So the total for the county, I guess, is $332,526.
And the reimbursement from the state is 30-some%.
Like 33%
Yeah,
or
30.
something. This is something they would amortize over a period of years, so that reimbursement would be amortized over a period of years, their portion of it.
All right. Moving on.
You were making a motion?
You made a motion?
Tom made a motion to take it out.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry, forgot we did that.
there was, what, we never got a second though, did we?
We haven't got one.
No.
All right.
I'll second it.
Diet, Remove.
Any further discussions? Roll call, please, Mr. Veeder.
Maxman,
No.
Schwartz,
No.
Leyland,
No.
Little,
Yes.
White.
No.
Are there any other capital items you'd like to go through again?
SUV for the next one down.
Okay.
I'd like to see that taken out.
Which one?
Still,
The health
the health
The health
department's
department.
one.
I think Patty's here to address it if we have any questions too about it, because I said there's a.
I think the
increase.
two vehicles that come back in, we could look at whether the assessor's office needs another vehicle or replacement. And I think we could use that other vehicle here at the courthouse for utility. Or supervisors could take it if they needed to, or other county employees instead of using their own vehicle.
I think the reason they're getting rid of the two, because they said they aren't safe, so you ought to bring it to the courthouse.
I don't know if they're not safe.
That's what I was told the other day, or the board.
Yeah, they're the little vehicles, but
Some little, what are they, AVOs or?
ADOs or
yeah.
ADUs.
I guess, what's that mean, not safe?
I don't know. She's here.
Yeah, can,
I don't know that they're not safe, it's just they're not easily driven in the wintertime by people. They're small.
and particularly for the wells and that type of work.
Yes,
You were thinking
yes.
in town, it might be different.
So-
And if you were just driving in town, I think it would be fine. It'd probably be a little fishtailing in the wintertime, but you would get around eventually.
Because we did say we could auction them off as well, so
Mm-hmm.
that might help too.
So how many wells do they go out and service or go through during the winter?
I don't know about during the winter, but last year we did, so far this year, we've done the 147 water tests for rural water. I think it was 5 well closures and 3 well pluggings so far this year.
You said that number had increased, or did you expect it
Yeah.
to increase more, or is it?
We're
just something
expect, it seems to increase, it's increased, we've done that's about what we did all of last year, and we've done that so far in 6 months. We have a grants to counties that pays for the well water tests, and back to the landowners for partial fees of that closure or plugging. We don't, but we just feel like we need a vehicle that can get us out there.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think them two AVOs make good squad cars.
I know where they're going then.
I guess I'd like to leave it in there.
I would too.
The vehicle I used last week from out there sat in the parking lot out here for 4 days.
Which one? The vehicle?
What was it?
The Flex.
The Flex. So I'd like, we need to go through the list of the number of vehicles that the departments have and see if they're utilized. See cars sitting around everywhere.
Oh, sure.
And we did, I
And
think
they're
that
not-
one.
And like I said, we're paying insurance on all these. And
I
that
think we got
insurance isn't cheap.
187 vehicles for insurance,
Just about one.
up from about 168.
I did talk to Patty about that during budget, and she kind of went through her list of vehicles. Those 2 AVOs are not really used that much, or not assigned. All of their vehicles, I believe, are assigned to a person, to an employee out there. The Flex, they're keeping open for the board travel, or for people who are traveling like to Des Moines on conferences. So that vehicle is not being used on a regular basis at the health department, so that is something to.
Is that a motion?
Well, if we're
It's in, right?
gonna go
Right,
through
right.
each one, I guess.
I suggest we take it out, and Frank said he's not in favor of taking it out, so.
But it's in the budget now, so
Yeah.
we don't have to. No.
Can we go back to the
Okay.
top, or is that the top?
No.
I
Oh,
didn't think-
I'm sorry.
Just not the top.
Okay. At the top, starting with the sheriff department, there's the replacement of
Rotation.
patrol vehicles and safety equipment. And then we are taking out the concrete polished patrol room floor that Rory had from the room and board.
Board, yep.
So the sheriff's total is $238,654. And the attorney, Brian, this is something I wanted to check with you. This is all the 97.5 I have coming from fine collection reserves. But I wasn't, are we doing the 40,000 this year, Brian, or will it be in FY19?
44, for which one?
The courtroom renovation?
That's from FY18.
Okay, all right. So I can take it out. So next year, we're doing the renovating the fine collection area. And then, but those are from fine collection money. And then HR, the 2,800 in office furniture is for lateral file cabinets, I believe, that Debbie had
Reduce that. Yeah.
reduced that.
I thought we just remodeled the whole office. Why didn't you?
So you can stop me if there's something. IT, then, a variety of replacement computers, desktops, printers, scanners, I guess the upgrade on the Office and the DocuWare licenses, and the additional New World licenses are some of the higher ones.
And the IT.
What's the total?
Total amount for IT is 111,823.
What's travel expense for? Just for,
The business on the left is
Oh.
not a total, it was just something
Yeah.
that could be, I did not include that.
Yeah, this amount over here is not included in the 111. This is something that we had looked at. It's similar to what DocuWare does, but it's built into the New World financial system. And we had looked at that as an option. But given the price, there are some changes we could do with DocuWare that might solve some of our issues that we're having. So we might look at that first.
are we still working on a plan where oh, there's Kim.
Yep.
I thought I heard her. Are we still working on a plan, Kim, to bring everything back in-house?
Well, like you said,
Yes or no?
no, well, not, I don't have a design plan, no.
How many years ago did we ask, or how many years ago did we start to, or how many years has ACE has been in here? 2,
Couple, maybe.
3?
Yeah.
And we knew they were part of the solution as we worked through a plan, but I think internal is, like you said, that's
Yeah.
where everybody would like
But
to
the
see
plan, where's the
have it
plan?
on staff, but, so we need to work on that plan.
Plan, yeah.
And then maintenance, we have the renovations in the chapel and room 420 out at Pinecrest. The licenses and cameras for the courthouse.
Did you get estimates on that, Roy? Or did you have somebody look at that? Because what are you gonna do with the acoustics out there? I don't know how you're gonna put speakers in out there and make it work.
Yeah, he said there's a special assessment.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
the speakers that they put in are designed for
Travel
big
speakers.
auditorium style situations. So,
Hopefully they're not the ones they put in our church, because they
Well-
remodeled our church and they put in new speakers.
and this is a budgetary, I mean, when we take this out for bid, that's something that we would definitely detail out in an RFP, that it's got to accommodate a room of this size and this height, and when we
Doesn't it accommodates it, it could be accommodated, it accommodates the church too, but it bounces around as too much noise, there's echo, it bounces off the walls, there's echoing.
yeah.
I used to be a sound guy in a past life. I mean, a system can be designed right for any space.
That's
It
why.
just has to be, is in my teens, but a system can be designed for any space to meet the
I know,
needs.
that's, my son-in-law is in the same business,
So, yeah. Yeah,
but not a past life.
that building could certainly use, like I say, some adequate, I think, audio visual, because like I say, it's been terrible for the meetings that we've been in.
Yeah.
And I know the staff would use it a lot more if it was available, but we talked about, rentals, and I agree with you, that's harder to even manage probably,
Yeah.
but
No.
but for, I think, our
No,
own staff
you
and the
don't
use
want-
of it.
Outside agent or people in there after hours,
No, not after hours, but I mean,
Well,
it
even
becomes a
during the day.
management nightmare, but was no reason to not do it.
Yeah.
I think it makes,
Okay, so Rory's total with the phone system is 454,806. Then we have the health department, DHS, and then
65 laptops.
Grant. You wanted to revise
55, I
your
thought you
to
said-
41 or?
yeah.
No, to 41 laptops, the amount would be 24,600.
Instead of the 40,000?
Correct.
An additional, oh.
No, reducing?
That's a reduction.
Okay,
reduction.
24,600? I'm going to write this over
Right.
here.
But where would that amount come from then?
And right now, it's coming out of reserve, so if we want to put that
Back in.
in, oh, the 40,000 is coming out, so if we want to put in 24,600, just into the regular tax askings, or if you want to,
I think it should come out of that reserve account.
Maybe two.
Is that 40-some percent?
okay. Going down to conservation, their total is 181,200. I think Mike's here if you have any questions. Okay, then there's 12,000 for CGIS. That's the CGIS budget. I don't know if you have any questions for the sheriff. Okay. Then we're moving down to, and that's the general fund. So this was the total in the general fund, less what was coming out of reserves. And then moving down to secondary roads. Their total is 985,750. Do you have any questions on any of those items?
I mean, some of them I don't understand, and I think we could rent them just as cheap, but for as much as we do pay to use, but that's beside the point, I guess.
Okay. And then Rory had some, oops,
That's it.
Rory, my screen went off. Oh.
Way to go, Rory.
What a good-looking bunch.
That was a good shot.
Get a new person on that.
Then Rory had some discussions with the sheriff, and these were the items that, capital items Rory needed over in the jail that can come out of the jail commissary fund. And then we had bonded for $150,000 for the Pinecrest bathroom renovation. Rory's estimate right now, though, is only $125,000. But that will come out of the CIP fund.
That was because of the doors, the being able to not do some of the renovation for that, and they.
They're not gonna make them any
$25,000
bigger?
twice.
Right, basically, we're able to come in a little under because of the ability to remove fixtures within the restrooms, rearrange how the access door into the restroom is, and not have to widen the hallway, which would have gotten into a structural situation, and that would have been a game changer for us. So I had met with the local architect. I feel we thoroughly went through that, so I'm comfortable with that, that design. So fortunately, we were able to come in under what we originally anticipated.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rory.
Thanks.
Susan, do you have a new total?
Well, since I had the 40,000 coming out of reserves and election,
They're not gonna
and
change
we're
it.
reducing that, it won't change the tax askings
No.
for that.
We had a couple other adjustments in there.
Out of capital?
I didn't think.
But we had one in HR.
That has already been adjusted in the
Okay.
amount that we looked at today.
You've adjusted it then,
So the tax askings of 502, 321 should be
Use restroom.
accurate. Except I will have to go back and adjust elected officials' salaries for the 4%. that will add a little bit.
No, I guess I'm talking specifically about the capital.
Oh, capital, I don't think there was any. All the changes that we made, like moving some of those to the jail commissary, those are already included in the.
Make a motion to approve the capital request.
Second.
So where are you at right now on your, I mean, the tax asking percent should be pretty much the same, other than the
Right, that will just be the 1%.
1%, which is
Right.
probably not a whole.
Yeah, it's not,
So you're still right around that 1 point something.
1.3%, yeah.
And then we're gonna start talking about country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Get it.
Do you have anything?
You made a motion, Frank?
Both of us
just have
seconded
3%.
it, so we're ready. to
Moved
go.
and seconded.
Ready for the vote.
I guess we don't, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, motion carried.
I was gonna say, do a resolution.
Guess I should have told her roll call.
Okay.
Moving on to country view. Is that what we got?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you create 3 scenarios with different dollar amount for funding?
Yeah.
Is that what we're going to talk about? And then what percent it increases?
Right, this is the long sheet that you have,
Okay?
The long sheet.
the legal
Yeah.
size. So the tax askings here, and again, this is without the 1% additional for the elected officials. Tax askings without country view, 502,321, 1.3% increase. And then as you go across each of these boxes, it's just adding $500,000. So 1 million, 1.5, 2 million, 2.5. So at the 2.5 is 8% increase.
That's country view and everything else?
This is adding 1 million, 1.5, 2 million, 2.5
To the
for country
1.3.
view. Yeah, to the where we're at here without country view. Then looking down, I only did, I didn't keep going across, but on the impact on a 100,000 assessed value for the different property types. So where we're at without country view is like a decrease of $9 on residential. And then adding $1 million is an increase of $1. So if you go across, the increase for on a residential property for every $1 million is going to be about $10.
Your estimation, we're going to be probably about, what, 2.5 million short of operating?
Yeah, 2 to 2.5, and then, but that's including county social services. So depending on what county social services decides to do,
It could be
go up to
3.5.
3.5.
But you're projecting, based on the information you had, at 2 million, and so.
Right, 2 million with
Change.
with county social services.
County social service, if county social services left, then you'd be.
Then we'd be,
3 million.
yeah.
3 million plus.
And then these are the tax rates and the increases down there. So then this morning, one other, I gave you a couple more spreadsheets. And this was a scenario where we would use some of the roads and bridges debt service fund balance. And the first proposal was $500,000, and adding, well, there's 2 of them. One, adding 2 million and $500,000 in debt service reserves, or $1 million and $500,000 in debt service reserves. And the only reason I'm suggesting hold on, let me pull up that debt service. Right now, we have about a $2 million fund balance in the roads and bridges debt service. We are planning to bond some amount for the Cedar Wapsie Bridge.
Are we able to use those funds for this?
The funds would be used to pay down the principal and interest in the debt service. And so in other words, instead of requesting our debt service tax askings Oops. So debt service tax askings are $4,798,008. We would reduce that and use fund balance to cover part of that. Use the roads and bridges. That goes to pay principal and interest. So the fund balance we have in our debt service fund can only go to pay down the debt. And so we would use some of that instead of taxing for that.
And the con would be down the road, we'd have to tax for it.
Right, but if we, let me pull this up here.
Just a couple coming off in the next year. Couple months.
It sounds like you're robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Well, part of the reason that fund balance has grown is that half of our local option sales tax goes in there. And over the years, we had sort of conservatively budgeted for that amount, and we received more revenue. So that sort of increased that fund a little bit every year. I'm sorry, trying to find my... So back when we started bonding and we started putting half of the local option sales tax, that's one of the big reasons why that fund balance has grown, is just over the years that's accumulated. So we have been at about a $3.4 to $3.8 million tax askings for the roads and bridges debt service. And FY19, we're at 3.3. If we used 500, and this would bring us down to a 2.8. If next year we bond for the Cedar Wapsie at $4 million, over 8 years, we'll add about 575 to what we currently have. That's going to be in FY20 back to a 3.8. Considering that we have 2 million, we could use probably up to $1 million without any problem. And eventually, when we get down here, if we don't do additional bonding, so in FY21, without any use of fund reserves, we're back down to a 2.3 or a 3.2. I'm sorry, look at my numbers. And then you keep going out at that 3.3 for a few years, and then it drops off in FY24. In our CIP, our debt service is really going to drop off in FY21 unless we would need to do any additional bonding. So in the next couple of years, using a little bit of that. And so it was at, fund balance was at $1,986,783. So using $500,000 in FY19 would only bring it down to a fund balance of $1.4 million, which.
So basically, go ahead, Frank.
In the scenario of the 2 million and then having the 500,000 from debt services,
right,
raises the tax on a residential $100,000 scenario of $6.81.
So we're looking at the 1 million and $500,000 in debt service. Oh, 2 million and, yeah, hold on.
First sheet we had.
This one, okay. So a 2 million and 500,000 in debt service reserves is just a little over 2 million in tax askings, 5.32%, and impact raising the taxes on a residential $6.81. Yes.
Per 100,000 of assessed.
Per 100,000 of assessed value. Yes. Yeah.
A little more than we did last year.
And so last year, that's this
5%.
number we're here, we actually raised $6.72.
So basically, what we're doing here is we're taking away from debt service now, but we're gonna have to bond for more later.
No, this is our current level of debt that we have. Those over here, this is the principal and interest payments that we have on our current level of debt. And then this is adding on debt that we anticipate bonding for in FY20 of $4 million for the Cedar Wapsie. And beyond that, I don't believe Kathy has we have any plans for any projects beyond that, right, Kathy? At least not in 5 years, right? Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. No, she's
Yeah,
going to say,
yeah.
yes, we do.
Right, Kathy?
Sorry. Okay.
Could you go back to the scenario where you had the 4 options up there?
Do you want to look at this page or
That one-
this
that
one,
one there.
this one here?
Did that have, does this include the information we just went through on?
No, this doesn't have any debt service fund balance usage. I guess just back to this debt service to clarify. So if we were anticipating, so this is anticipating the 4 million in the next
Next fiscal.
next year, then this would be the total amount that we would need principal and interest over, these remaining fiscal years. It drops off in FY '24 right at this point, but maintains this, between 3.3, $3.8 million.
There's mine.
Well, to me, the $2 million to support Country View and using the $500,000 from debt service makes sense to me to budget for that.
I would agree with that.
Is that a motion?
Is that on the form?
I can make it in the
Oh, it's just for
motion.
discussion.
Making the motion to fund Country View at $2,500,000 and $500,000 coming out of debt service.
Oh, Frank, this is just 2 million total.
Yeah.
So that's $1.5 million.
No, well, we would add 2 million, just 2 million for Country View.
Yeah.
But I would take 500,000 in tax
So
asking
that's
out of
$1.5
that.
million then.
And that would put our tax
see,
asking at 5.2%?
The sheet says 2 million
It's-
and 500,000, so that.
Well,
But our tax asking would only be at 1.5 million.
yeah,
I'm
yes,
confused
right,
on that.
Frank. We would be adding 1.5 million to our tax askings. I guess.
1.5.
Sorry.
Yep,
But providing 2 million for Country View.
yep.
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
So that gives the residential property of
$2 million does
Six.
include the reduction of the 500,000.
$6.42.
Just got a question.
Grant's talking to her right now, Grant.
Frank, I just wanted to clarify, when you're talking about the $1.5 million, the figure she's got right there with the 2.002 million, that does reduce, that already has the 500,000 debt service reduced out of it.
Right.
Just
I
wanted to
think
make
Frank
sure you
was
understand.
talking about, we're at 502,000, and then it's really another $1.5 million in tax askings because I'm using 500.
Okay.
And I think that
So we're talking about an addition of 1.5 million over the,
over the 502,000, yeah. Okay.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Veeder.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Little.
No.
Maxman.
Yes.
White.
Yes. Passes.
And then, just to make sure, I will have to go back and add the 1%, so that will change it a little. But I will send that out when I,
What's, so the tax asking final number right now is at 5 point something?
is 2 million,
Okay,
2,000.
percent-wise,
oh, 5.32%.
5.32. Up from last year.
So what's our timeline from here on out to
So-
set data hearing
Yeah.
on this budget?
So Linda, we could move it up, but let me look at my, I don't have.
I think you're really pushing the envelope having it on the 13th.
Right.
I guess, I don't know if you can set it for the last week of February or not?
Yeah, I think we could push it up since we've made all the decisions
you're
now.
gone
Yeah, I'm going that week.
You're gone the last week in February.
Can we do it another day? I mean, does it have to be done on Tuesdays?
Well,
But if he's gone a whole week
I'll be
and you're
back on
gone a
that
whole
Friday.
week.
I'll be back on
Will you be
Friday.
here on that Friday?
Okay.
What about February 20th? Is that,
I don't know that there's enough time. Hold on, I have to think.
Well,
I sent it the paper.
Gotta have
We
to
might
do
be
for
able
publishing.
to. 1, 2, 3.
that last Friday I'm here.
27th, you're gone?
I would know. We can't do it on the 20th. I would have to have it to the paper
Who's
tomorrow.
gone the 27th?
Me.
Craig is gone, and then Linda's gone. So I think it has to be on the 13th of March.
Yeah, if you have a hiccup, I mean,
Yeah, we don't
that's
know.
the closest we've ever come, but that's, we roll the dice.
I mean, is it possible to go later in that week of the 19th?
It has to be
22nd,
certified by the 15th of March.
Right.
Oh, you
No,
mean
I'm saying
later in the
in
week.
February,
No, but
like
if we had-
like the
if we have a
22nd,
hiccup.
23rd, does that give us enough time to publish?
22nd?
No,
22nd or the second?
possibly, we could have it, well, no, because I don't know what the law, I could have it published in the Courier in enough time, but not in the Progress and Herald, because they only publish weekly and they don't publish, they publish on Wednesday and Thursday, so
I'd prefer we keep it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's board day, and that's,
Yeah.
if people are gonna come, at least they know the time
yeah.
and day of the week and the hour.
Yeah, well, unless we have enough.
So it looks like it has to be the 13th.
All else fails, we've got 2 more days in that week.
Yeah.
If something, if we have.
Well, we
hiccup
have
he's
to
talking
publish,
about.
we have to publish it, so
Yeah,
Yes.
but we'd have that
we
done.
can't change that.
No.
We just have to check with the 2 papers to make sure it makes it. I think
And-
once it didn't.
Right.
Can we do phone-ins?
Yeah, can we? We talked about we could.
I think so,
I'd
yeah.
be willing, I can certainly do
Yeah.
that. I don't know if you can, but I
You
certainly
missed the
can.
deadline, and revert to last year's.
So that
If we want to
becomes
have it
an
on the
option,
6th and you want to phone in, we could do that.
I can do that too. I offered earlier, but we didn't think we'd want to do it, but
Do you want to do it
I'm
that
fine.
way?
It's good to have
Let's do
the
it the
option, I
6th.
think.
Let's do it the 6th, so
Yeah.
Okay.
in case we got a big hiccup.
All right, that'll be good.
Yep, I like it.
Okay.
Anything else this morning?
That's enough. If there is, we can do it Tuesday.
So is there anything that we haven't
Yeah.
That we haven't covered?
voted on?
That we have to.
Don't think so.
That we don't have to? Yeah, we don't have to.
I would-
Nobody
I would still put the budget on Tuesday's meeting,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
just in
review it.
case. It'll be posted. If we don't need to meet,
Okay.
we won't
This
meet.
is Thursday.
This way it'll be posted.
Yeah. I think it's always good to review anyway, kind of when
Yeah.
you bring it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah,
good
have
for
a
all.
review, go through it all once more time.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's in.
Okay.
order.
Word help us.
What?
Okay.
We don't need any more paper.
No. So, anything more?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Moved and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.